Hello, World of YouTube, and welcome to part 2 of my Foo Fighters Discography review. If you missed part 1, click the door for door. It takes you to magic places. I only cover 3 albums, but I feel like I go really in depth with those. In this part, I'm going to be covering the albums one by one, In Your Honor, the acoustic album Skin and Bones, Echo Sounds, Patience, Grace, and the new album, Wasting Light. Now, that is 5 albums, and I don't really want to make this be too long, so why don't we go ahead and get started. And the first album they released in the 2000s was called One by One, and it was released back in 2002, and people love to hate this album. I don't really know why. I mean, it has this fantastic opening track with All My Life, one of my favorite Foo Fighters songs, and stays progressively awesome, and I don't get why people hate it. I mean, it has a good bit of the elements that the Foo Fighters are known for. It has the edgy stuff with All My Life and Low. You have the hooky stuff with Times Like These. And you have the great opening with All My Life, the fantastic closing with Come Back, which is this long journey of a song within itself. It's about 8 minutes long, which is long for a Foo Fighters song, especially for a Foo Fighters song, because they don't normally write songs really above 5.5 minutes, more than 7 minutes, or let alone 7 minutes. And, I mean, granted, there's not a whole lot of depth to the album, it feels like. There's still some interesting stuff on here, like Disenchanted Lullaby. Feels kind of Beatles-rooted, which showcases up later in their career. And, I mean, I dig this album as a whole. It's this great collection of good Foo Fighters songs. The playing on it is solid. The songs are pretty damn good. Yeah, I don't agree with any sort of criticism this album gets. It's not my favorite, it's not my worst. It's kind of in the middle, but it has some really great stuff. It has one of my favorite Taylor Hawkins drum lines in the song Low, that traveling drum pattern. I fucking love that. I mean, traveling drums are one of my favorite things drums can do. Like, that's why I love groove metal, because there's a lot of songs and bands that have that traveling drum pattern to it, or in their music, and, yeah. They wrote a great small collection of songs. Some of the mixing is weird, like, I think it's on the song Halo, has that electric guitar and acoustic guitar mixed together, and it just sounds really, really bizarre, but other than that, I mean, it's a pretty damn good album. Yeah. My favorite song on the album is actually Low, like I said. And the next album they released is called In Your Honor, which was released back in 2005, and I'm actually going to be reviewing both discs, like, separate from each other. This is disc 1, the edgier side, and holy shit. This thing starts off with a fucking monster. The title track of this album, In Your Honor, kicks fucking ass. Holy shit. That drum pattern, the guitars, Dave Grohl is just screaming. It's probably one of my favorite opening tracks out of the career overall, but it's definitely one of my favorite tracks of all time, opening tracks of all time. And it just keeps going on and on. No Way Back is fantastic. Best of You is okay. That song got killed for me because it was overplayed to shit everywhere, but it's not a bad song. But, I mean, they just keep going on through. Hell, Last Song, these just great, edgy-ish songs, but by about the last song point, they do die down a little bit, and, in fact, the song Resolve kind of sounds Beatle influenced, like I said on the last album, specifically the chorus. That chorus just seems very Beatles influenced, and I dig it. I like the way it sounds. I'm a Beatles fan, so. But, really, it just keeps going until this grand end of End Over End. It itself kind of feels like a Foo Fighters album, each disc, to an extent, especially this one. I don't miss the acoustics on this. I feel if you added some of the acoustic songs, it'd make a complete album, because the next part, I'll have a bit more to say, but I just fucking love this. I love the progression of the album. I love the way it sounds. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Yeah, it fucking kicks ass. My favorite track is actually the opening track. I love that opening track just kicks so much ass. Like, the first time I heard it, I had to re-listen to it, like, 1,000 times. It kicks so much ass. Yeah. Now, Disc 2 to In Your Honor is a little bit more intimate. It's an acoustic session, and the opening to this still is this kind of beautiful serenade. Like, this, you really get a different side of the Foo Fighters with this, and you have, you actually have Taylor Hawkins coming back from the drums and doing vocals on the song Cold Day in the Sun, and, I mean, you have a lot of change with this, and it's not bad. I feel it's overshadowed, definitely, by the first disc to me. I mean, there's some fantastic songs on here, like Friend of a Friend, the opening track, Cold Day in the Sun, and Razor are all fantastic tracks. And the rest aren't bad, but in comparison, not as good as the first disc, nowhere near. And I feel if you meshed the two, you'd get a much better album. I feel that having 20 songs as a dual disc is just not completely needed. I get it, and it's a cool concept, but I feel as a whole, a lot of the songs on here don't live up. Some of them just go on for too long, and it just kind of, it's just not as good to me. But when this album does shine, it definitely shines, like on the tracks I mentioned, especially Cold Day in the Sun and Friend of a Friend. Friend of a Friend being this track that Dave wrote way back in the day and is releasing now, or on this album, and I think that you kind of get a bluesy influence from the band that definitely shines in the next couple of releases, and I mean, it's an interesting thing. Like, I'm gonna review the acoustic album next, the acoustic live album, but I mean, I think that it was weird to hear this at first, to hear them do all acoustic all throughout. I don't hate it, it's not my favorite thing. My favorite song on the album is, on this disc, is Cold Day in the Sun, so underneath the end of the thingy, I'll have Cold Day in the Sun and the title track for you guys to check out. And, yeah. And the only live album of theirs, I think that's ever been released, and definitely the only one I would talk about, is Skin and Bones, which is an acoustic live album that was released back in 2006, and it's weird to hear this album because they do a lot of their electric stuff acoustically, like My Hero and Everlong and Times Like These, and it's not bad. It's just it's kind of like the Godsmack acoustic album. It's just weird to hear. It's something that I'm not surprised they did, especially after having In Your Honor, but kind of glad they don't go back to it. They also did the Nirvana song Marigold, which is a great song, and really the only song they could do, because Dave wrote it and was on it. Like, I think he sang on that track, but the one song that sounds the best acoustic is Big Me, and that's because it's the mellow song. Aside from, like, Walking After You, which is already acoustic in a sense, and it's a very ballady in a sense, but, I mean, it feels very intimate. Like, even though you can hear this big crowd, it feels like a very intimate, live album, and, I mean, the band sounds great. Dave sounds fantastic. I mean, I've seen them live twice now. I've watched 2 of their live streams, the one they did for Dave Letterman and their Lollapalooza performance, which was fucking astounding, and I really want to see them live, but I wouldn't want to see an acoustic set, because I feel it's not all the Foo Fighters, and you can definitely feel that element's missing, and they kind of try to put that in there, and it's just not there. But it's a nice little, not little, but it's a nice performance by them, and my favorite acoustic, probably Everlong. That's just a great song overall, but the acoustic version's really damn good. If it feels like the light's been getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, it's because it has been. I've been doing stuff in between shooting this, but the next album they released is called Echo Silence Patience Grief, which was released back in 2007, and I'm gonna be honest, probably one of my least favorite Foo Fighters albums. Not that it's terrible. It's just a lot more meh. It has again, fantastic opening. They can start off an album well. They can get themselves off their feet fantastically. I mean, The Pretender is another one of those great opening tracks. Let It Die is a fantastic follow-up. And it keeps kind of being okay. It starts to get meh with Erase Replace. It's a great song, but it's not as good as compared to the first two. It just gets progressively more okay. The last track isn't this big ending track. It's this kind of personal ballad with Dave and the piano. And, I mean, there's some shining stars on here. Come Alive is pretty good. And Summer's End isn't bad. But, I mean, it's just in comparison to the first half of In Your Honor and the next album, this is like a weird meh. Like, it's, I don't really know how else to describe it. It's like, it just feels kind of safe for them. I mean, it's logically the step up they would make, but I mean, it's okay. I don't really think that anything is too adventurous for them. I feel that if I had reviewed In Your Honor when it came out, and there were people who had done a review like mine, people would have gone, or Foo Fighters would have gone, oh, you want to see it meshed together? Okay, here's what we sound like when we do that. And they even drew a little bit from Skin and Bones, with the style of the ballads. And it's just safe. It's just a safe record. One of the reasons why it really irks me. My favorite song is probably Let It Die, just because I love that ending, that very strong Dave Grohl screaming ending. And, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of Foo Fighters fans who love this album. I think it's okay. I'd rather talk about the next album. Yeah. And the next album they released was called Mr.
Wasting
Misery,
Light,
which came out this year. Oh my god, do I love this album. I love every second of this release. And you would think I don't like the acoustic side of Foo Fighters because of it, because there's not really acoustics on this album. But I do like the acoustics. I just love the way they did this whole thing. This is honestly my favorite Foo Fighters album. I mean, I love Colors and Shape. I love the first album, and I really like everything after that. But this album just sounds so damn good. It's still my favorite album of the year when I filmed this today, August 27th, 2011. This album just starts with this monster of bridge burning and doesn't let up on the awesomeness until after White Limo. Dear Rosemary, even though it's a softer song, has a bit of that edge to it. And Arlandria has that tongue-in-cheek manner to it, and they have songs like Back and Forth and Matter of Time, which kind of throw back to that older Foo sound. And you have this fantastic blues track, and I Should Have Known, which just sounds great. And it has that great opening and epic closing with Walk, having Dave screaming, I never want to die. It just, I can never get past this out. I can never not get past this album on a shuffle. Like, if one of the songs comes up, I usually have to go back to Bridge Burning and listen to it all the way through. This album stands miles above a lot of the stuff they'd put out. Like, it stands above In Your Honor and Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace. This album absolutely kicks ass. Great rockin' tunes, fantastic musicianship, that thick sound with 3 guitars is present on this album, very much so. Pat, Chris, and Dave sound fantastic together as guitarists. You have just that, I love the drums on this album, I love the bass on this album. I could fucking go on and on about this album all fucking day. This album kicks so much ass. I mean, it just has so much emotion going through it. Dave just bleeds his voice out on this album on so many of the tracks. I Should Have Known is this great change for them. You know, I Should Have Known is this fantastic change of pace for them, and while they don't have acoustics, I could see this being done acoustically and would sound very well done. I really want to see them live. I just fucking love this album. It kicks ass. And I was going to end the video here, but I forgot about Medium Rare. I'm going to review that after this. But my favorite track on the album is Bridge Burning. That's my favorite opening track they've ever done. It was either that or White Limo, because I mean, those two are like the best aggressive Foo Fighters song. White Limo is especially just, I get goosebumps sometimes while listening to it. It's so damn good. But yeah, album, awesome. If you have not heard this album, for shame, go check out this album. Even if you were not a Foo Fighters fan, get this album. It rocks. It rocks fucking hard. This might convert you to a Foo Fighters fan. It's so damn good. But yeah. Now, one more album to talk about. Let's get on to it. Now, I completely forgot about this album's existence, and then when I thought about it, I was thinking about, do I want to cover it, do I not want to, but I looked, and it's on YouTube. You can get all of the tracks on YouTube. I've linked a playlist and the underthingy to it. Another one of the reasons that it's darker is because I listened to it just like now, and it's a cover album, so I was comfortable enough to cover it on here. It is an album that was put on Record Store Day. That's one of the reasons why I wasn't going to cover it originally, because it's very hard to get. But it's covers. You got covers by Wing on here, or you got Wing covers, Cream, Thin Lizzy covers, Husker Du covers. You got a good set of classic band covered on here. Some of them live, like the Young Man Blues is done at the Tribute to the Who concert. And there were some I was kind of hesitant to hear. And I know some of these were put as B-sides to the early stuff, but they're finally put out on here. Like, I was kind of hesitant to hear this Bad Reputation cover and the Darling Nikki cover, because they're, not their style. And same with the Have a Cigar cover, because I've heard a great cover, like Primus, and that cover is one of the few on here that's very, not a huge fan. But the Darling Nikki cover's pretty good. The Bad Reputation cover kicks ass. Some of the live ones sound a bit rough, like the Baker Street one, and the Danny Says one sound a bit rough. Actually, the Danny Says one isn't live. It still sounds very rough recording, though. But, like, the Band on the Run is a fantastic opening cover for this album. They do a very good job with that. And it was until I realized that the Young Man Blues cover's on here that was my favorite. But I love that Young Man Blues cover. They rock the shit out of that song. Just below The Who. Like, The Who did a fucking best cover of that song. But Foo Fighters, great cover of that as well. But, I mean, they should stick to what they are kind of rooted with. Like, it's weird to hear bands cover stuff that's outside of what you're used to them doing. And definitely that Have a Cigar cover just kind of has a weird vibe to it. It's a weird sound. The band just sounds just odd playing a song like that. But, yeah, that was my Foo Fighters review in all of its entirety. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I definitely enjoyed reviewing this band. I love this band. The next one I'm doing is 9 Inch Nails, just for preference, or just for future reference. 9 Inch Nails is the next one I'm doing. It was requested by a few people. Figured I'd do that. It's in my top 5 as well. But, again, hopefully you enjoyed this. You guys have good days, life situations. I will see you another day.